Alrighty. Welcome everybody to the final day of the Australian Open Championships, and of course this is the World Championship Trials. It's the women's 3-metre semi-finals today, and of course we'll come back later in the afternoon for the finals around about 4 o'clock, joined by Sam Fricker today. So great to have you, Sam. I mean, obviously coming back from injury. I mean, tell us about what's happened to you and the road back to diving.
Yeah, it's great to be here with what feels a commentary expert, Joey. You know, I suppose the 10 metre be a bit low for you. You're used to doing all the cliff diving all around the world.
No, that I am. But let's face it. You know, cliff diving and high diving is nothing without the foundation of diving. That's the base of it. Let's be honest. You know, so being a great diver can make you a great cliff diver, but if you don't have the diving foundation, you can't be a great cliff diver, of course.
Certainly.
But yeah, how are you going with the back injury? I mean, I've gone through something similar with 2 bulge discs. I mean, it's a very frustrating experience. I mean, tell us about the path back to diving.
It's been a very long 7 months. Did a first bulge around November, then I progressed to another bulge that's brought me only be able to dive in the last 5 weeks, which is why I'm not competing here at this event now. It would have been way too risky to have pushed for it, and only really 5-6 weeks without that sharp pain down my leg. So it's been a very, very tricky time to try to even stay fit. You got to go and ride the bike for 6-7 months. Mate, I didn't sign up for that, but you don't have a choice. You know, you got to stay fit.
And I understand how you feel, because there's only certain movements that you can actually do without getting into that pain threshold. I mean, you're in a little bit of pain, but you don't want to do it too much. It's decapitating.
It's like a sharp, nervy, like electrical pain. It's not like an achy arm. It's like
it
you've been
doesn't go
tased.
away. That's the thing that I noticed as well. So it's a horrible experience having that sciatic nerve pain. So kicking off the competition with Charlie Brown. So just 15 years of age. This is her first senior competition, and last year was her first junior nationals. So I would dare say very little experience in the diving competition scene, let's say, but off to a great start by Charlie Brown. I mean, how important is it for these junior athletes to get exposure in these senior events?
Yeah, I remember my first national events, just being out with those open divers shows you what you need to do to get to that level. And starting with a standing dive is a great choice. Your first dive in a competition, you're normally quite nervous, bit edgy. Standing dives are safe because you haven't got to worry about that hurdle. You know?
The hurdles is the nemesis of all 3-metre divers.
But a great start, 5.5, 6.5s.
So Lacey Beaushire, 105B, so that's fun. 2.5. Choosing to go with the, I'll call it the traditional hurdle instead of going with the hop hurdle.
That's it.
But thoughts on the hop hurdle? Obviously, definitely a lot more power, but can be challenging to maintain the balance, right?
That's it. More power, more risk. If you can control it, it's good. I certainly run that risk.
Yeah.
Because you need to move that board, but seems like she's gone over. She's got too much power. Good on her.
Yeah.
Moving fast. That's Jackson Beaushire's sister?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't want to, make sure I don't get my stats wrong there. But
good diving family there.
I was going to say, obviously, runs in the genes. And Sam, I mean, a little bit about your...
it looks like we've had a withdrawal here.
Yes.
Looks like the referees are just sorting that out.
Mm-hmm.
It's always the worst feeling when you think there's 3 people before you. It turns out to be 2. you're in the spa and you've got to get up there.
Yeah. And these are some of the scenarios that you need to sort of run through as well when you're in competition, right? So sometimes you have to think about, well, let's run through all the things that can happen. Sometimes there's a delay, right? There's a technical problem with the desk or whatever it may be. Do you sort of run through those scenarios in your head before the competitions, or is this part of the whole training regime with N-Swiss?
I think just being a diver and having experience in the field, you learn to just expect the unexpected and be open to accept anything that comes because you have a plan. It's like Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Exactly.
You got to plan. You got to plan until there's people withdrawing and you should be up on the board.
And all of a sudden you're like, I don't quite like getting punched in the face. I don't know about this.
It's no good, but a great opening start here from the Singaporean diver. I went over there recently, and the pool they have for the World Championships, beautiful. They got like open slats. You can feel that warm air blow through. It's kind of like you're in an aircon building, except it's like inside, outside. I love it because Singapore's so warm. It's just
it is. It's very humid, but that's
really nice to dive there.
I should be there actually to MC the World Championships. So looking forward to seeing the diving venue as well as the high diving venue, of course. Eleanor Williams representing Western Australia. So as we were talking about before, just finding that comfortable dive for the first one.
Yeah, really solid opening in with 2.5 pike. And again, opting for those standing starts. Mm-hmm. It's a good way to go. Really strong takeoff off the board.
And Sam, you're one of the few divers who are actually rotating between platform diving and 3-metre diving. What do you want to do moving into the future? Do both or specialise in one?
Yeah, well, I went to the Olympics for 10 metre. I got a medal at the Commonwealth on 3 metre. Yep. And as I get a bit older, I really enjoy my springboard training. I get up in the morning, I feel excited to be doing it. So I'd like to do more of it moving forward, but I've got to work through that with the coaches, and they're both sitting directly over there on their N-Swiss jumpers. So
we don't want to. Yeah, we don't want to open up the conversation on air. We can have that private conversation. Oh, look, fellas, I'm just specialising. No, but I was believe it or not, a 3-metre diver as well. I love my springboard. Love a good 3 bounce and a bit of a play.
It's good fun,
isn't it?
Macy, of course, training over in Hawaii.
Yep.
What an amazing place to train. I've been over and seen the pool there. It's outdoors, sun shining down. The water is so warm. Yeah. Honestly, I feel like it's the dream of diving.
Yeah, it would be. I think she's studying speech pathology over there, so that's going to be her dream job. But I know if I was going to do the college diving overseas, Hawaii, right?
Come on.
Get your surfboard
Does
out.
it get better than that?
But also Hawaii, just the temperature is perfect all year round. It's not too hot, not too cold.
Got Coach Brando over there.
Yep.
Fellow legend.
Got Emily Francis, so she's just 17 years of age. Again, another youngster gaining valuable experience. Went to the same acrobatic club as Cassiel Russo. Great pedigree of diving. And her hurdle and power really has come a long way.
Oh, okay. Really strong takeoff. Mm-hmm. It just looks like she lost core strength going through the water. Still a great dive, in my opinion. But just letting those kind of legs go over and bending the back. You can see her even holding her back there. It may have hurt.
Yeah, I mean, almost, like you said, let's look at the replay, but it did look like you can see those heels driving behind her. Yeah. Obviously a little late on the out and trying to hold that line, and a bit of a twang there. And that's pretty common, isn't it? Some lower back injuries.
Certainly are. Certainly are.
No, but again, reiterating those, the sciatic nerve pain that you've experienced and I've experienced, it's just, it's not an easy road back.
I've broken my ankle before around training, and I'd much rather do that.
Bones are good. That's what my physiotherapist always says. The bones always heal, right? But the nerve stuff just takes a long time, and it just, like we were just saying before, it really just doesn't go away.
Now Lucy's in with 2.5 pike. I really like the pike position in the air. Just struggling a little bit on rotation, leaving the dive shorter vertical. And you want to give yourself enough time to come out, look for the water, and line it up. So, again, I really like that pike position.
Yeah, inwards are definitely one of the ones that bothered me. I mean, was there a particular dive that always bothered you? Some people it's reverse, some people it's inward.
Yeah, the coaches.
What was the thing that you didn't like?
Look, and this is the thing. This is the annoying thing with diving. It changes.
Yeah, exactly.
You got all your stuff together, and then one day you don't.
Yes.
And that just changes. Back's going well for 6 months, and you lose it, and you got to figure it out again. So it's a very challenging sport.
I think that's the common theme, isn't it? Is you just being adaptable and riding through those hard times. Alicia Kaloy, the world champion in Doha on 1 metre.
That was amazing to watch.
2024. And it was interesting reading her bio and she was talking about how she doesn't like to actually listen to the competition. Like some people like to try to be oblivious to everything. Put your headphones on. Don't look at anyone else's results. And she was saying that she wasn't really aware of where she was, that she was in contention for the win. So
it's pretty
must
impressive.
be a mighty fine surprise by the time you come up and look at the scores. You're like, hello, world champion, here I am.
I thought not bad at all.
Yeah.
And a very strong opening dive. I personally don't like to compete like that. Like
Yeah.
and it obviously works for Alicia being an Olympian and a world champion, but I don't like to hide from the truth. If I do a bad dive, I want to face it, I know I did a bad dive and I can't hide from it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking to Aiden Heslop about that, and he says he likes to listen to the competition. And if he hears someone else has done a good dive, then he's like...
Fires him up too.
Well, exactly. He's like, do you know what? I need to go for this. I'm going to nail this. And so it's funny, but if that works for him and that's what you've got to do, I was a bit the opposite. I was like, put my headphones on. I like to get sort of charged up with some music that really sort of pumps you up. But Natalie Farn...
Really grading with 2.5.
I mean, she's really diving well, isn't she? I mean... So this year, she was gold in the Southern Cross event in Auckland as well. And then in 2024, gold on the 1 metre Australian Opens as well. Georgia Sheehan, one of the most experienced athletes that we've got here in Australia.
Commonwealth
Very
Games
graceful
champion.
diver, exactly. So gold on 1 metre, yeah.
Beautiful back 2.5. Very steady.
Huh? Yeah.
Very
she said she's
beautiful
really
dive.
interested in being, working her way into global business brand. That will be one of her dream jobs. I mean, and I guess you're in a similar kind of boat as well, into the business realm. I mean, how important do you think it is to really have those other interests, whether it's business, whether it's study, whether it's hobbies or sport? How important is that to create that? Let's call it diving life balance.
Yeah, Vaninka Arlo, when I was a kid, because I was just absolutely obsessed with diving, I knew nothing else, didn't want to know anything else. She said, Sam, you've got to have a few things outside of sport to stay balanced. And I didn't understand at that point. I thought, what do you mean? I've got to give diving everything. But she said, I've got to have a few things outside. And now I've got my social media, I've got my business stuff, and I find it balances me more as a diver, because when I come into training, it's nearly a sacred space that allows me to concentrate more, because I haven't been thinking about it all day.
And that is that sort of sense of compartmentalisation, okay, during this part of the day, focus on my business stuff, and boom, I set that aside, time to come into training and do my thing.
So much easier said than done. Like the amount of times I've come to training and I'm stressing about a work thing, or I'm at work thinking about that dive I've got to do tonight, but that's the idea. And a very strong opening dive from Britt. Now she's won the prelim, won the semi, so she's sitting pretty going into the final, but hopefully she can hold that. She's got a 10-point lead at the moment.
That's good for her, yeah. She's a little bit of a shaky start on the 1 metre, but like you said, making up ground.
She does say, though, her first event in a long time, she gets quite stressed and nearly needs to get a dodgy event, if you will, out of the way.
Yeah.
So she knew that going into 1 metre. She said it to me a couple of weeks before. So she knows what she's doing.
And speaking of shaking off that competition rust and, getting that competition experience, we're talking to Sophia Knight yesterday, and she said she's really enjoying competing and being in the university system in America, because she says they have competitions constantly. And she says it just really gets you in the groove and you don't get so stressed coming into competition. Of course, you need some nerves, right? You need that extra bit of power and that extra bit of focus in the competitions, but just takes that edge off, right? Would you not agree?
You're spot on. When you only compete once or twice a year, or you've got 2 or 3 major events, and they're all you've got, tends to stress you out a fair bit because there's more weighing on it. But if you're competing every week, every second week, it becomes part of your routine, and nearly the pressure weighing on that event is less so because you've got way more of them.
Yep.
So competing more, I think, is incredible. You also get more experience. A little bit of a miss here for the back 2.5. What do you reckon, just threw the head back on takeoff?
Oh, that was I'll call that my nemesis, that particular dive.
Back 2.5?
Oh.
I thought it was the inward.
Kicking out, look at the roof. This did not go to plan.
I'll tell you what, there's nothing worse than coming out and just knowing that you've made a major mistake. There's nothing worse. I failed this one dive in Spain. The roof was like this dome.
I know the one.
I drilled it for nearly 10s in warm-up, dare I say perfect.
Yeah.
And then I get to the competition and the dome just confuses me. I made a mistake and I come out And I failed the dive. I landed flat on my back. Reverse 3.5. Felt like
Where the feet hit first.
I felt like such a loser. But
we've all done it.
It's part of it. It's part of it. You just got to get back up.
That's the pool where they've actually got the 15-metre platform inside the roof there. So some of the high divers, Carlos Jimeno and Rhiannon's trained there a fair bit as well. So I know exactly where you're talking about.
It's not my favourite pool.
No, and that's the hard thing, isn't it? Just sometimes coming to different pools, different visuals, particularly when they build a new pool, right? So sometimes the lighting's not right. That's what I've found, and they just like these massive floodlights. You're like, whoa, dude, this is not working.
The Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, I found 10 metre very difficult to spot. On 3 metre, I was fine. And we ended up picking a medal up down there, which was nice. But 10 metre, I remember I was doing my back 3.5, and I was like, all I'm seeing is light. Where's the water?
Yeah, light. And that's the scariest feeling in the world, isn't it? It's like,
nothing worse.
Man, I hope I've got this. And speaking of spotting, I mean, I've seen Hoel using the spotting wheel quite a lot. Is that something that you're still liking to use? Obviously, there's the traditional harness and the trampoline, bit of water harness, but is that something that's still part of your repertoire?
I've had a few crack at it when I was learning the front 4.5. I'm quite a big diver, you know. So for me,
you are tall.
Yeah, for me to do a harness, like I feel like I could rip Hoel's arms off. So I don't know if it's.
Let's be nice to Hoel.
Yeah,
Hoel.
Yeah, he's jacked, you know. But I'm such a big diver. I feel like I don't normally get in the harness too often because I don't want to injure the coach.
Yeah, I watch 80 Hinchcliffe sometimes putting Cass in the harness, and he's definitely sweating bullets by the end of it. Yeah. So Emily Francis just coming up a little bit short there. I'm just wondering if maybe that back is still plaguing her a little bit, so it's a bit of a shame. Let's just have a look at the dive. Break it down for us, Sam.
Yeah. You can see when you come out, you want to kick and look at your feet. And if you can have your feet in front of you, it'll actually continue the rotation slightly. So when she kicks out, throws her head back and drops the feet, it completely cuts off the rotation. So if she was strong on the come out, I reckon she could have put that down because it was only marginally short. Oh. Another bad save.
Yeah, and that's the point. Again, we've had this conversation quite a few times about, okay, you've got to have 20 different approaches for your hurdles. Sometimes you're back, sometimes you're off to the side, sometimes you twist it. Let's have a look at the hurdle there.
Leaning really
just
far
that
forward.
Feeling of just, and you know when they're doing that, when their arms just drop all of a sudden. I was watching Archie do that yesterday. I was like, whoa, nice save, young kid. So Harriet's having a bit of a giggle there, just going, oof. Got away with that one.
In training, my coach, if I ever lean forward, he says, you'd rather be back on the board because at least then you can muscle it. If you're leaning forward, there's nearly nothing you can do. So you'd rather be short on the end of the board, which means too far back. Alicia Kaloy. Yeah, really solid dive.
I mean, really admiring just the level of height. I mean, it's a very graceful. I mean, I love it when you see those hurdles, that nice flat back line and that leg stepping down nice and strong to extend that hurdle. Let's look at that there.
She's a very powerful diver.
And I really think she's come along leaps and bounds. I mean, if you sort of look at where she's come from 3 years ago to now, I mean, it's just remarkable to see the level of improvement.
It is just solid, consistent, and so powerful in those jumps. And it makes a difference because when you jump high, the judges want to give you higher points.
Andy Banks was calling approaching the hurdle. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, but did a good job working it around, right? Again, a little bit of trouble, but muscled through it. And that's the name of the game, right? No matter the takeoff, you fight to the very end of the dive. But Andy Banks was talking a lot about hurdles, like making sure that first you need the baby hurdle, the baby bear, I think he calls it. Making sure that the technique is good. And then you get the medium bear, just to get a little bit more power, making sure that the technique is bang on. And then you can start really pushing the muscle and getting the height off the board.
Yeah, sometimes it can be a bit of a gamble.
Yeah, it is.
Especially at big dives, you've got to really go for it. And ideally, you want to be so strong that you don't have to hit that hurdle too hard.
Yeah.
But if it is a big dive, you've got to really go for it. You've got to, crack hard in that hurdle, which can come with more risk.
Well, this is where the S&C team sort of comes into play, isn't it? So, yeah, definitely a lot of heavy squats.
Ooh, okay.
Lovely diving, right?
Another dive I've seen a lot of Georgia Sheen doing. She normally does the front 3.5 tuck. So for her to be doing it pike and to be doing it that well, what a testament to the incredible training she must have put in. And a beautiful pike it is. Like, wow.
And I think
very elegant.
I'm wondering also that maybe she feels that there's something to prove. I mean, obviously there was just that narrow miss for her to go to the Olympics with Alicia Kaloy, and also
was it less
commendable
than 0.2?
Response too. It was nothing. But the way she handled it with grace, and she was complimented and was gracious. towards Alicia Kaloy, and that was a great display of sportswomanship, I have to say.
Brittany O'Brien, same dive, and wow.
She whipped that around. It was a little on the low side, but got it around.
Yeah, Brittany, she spins so fast, and she gets into that beautiful pike position. She's absolutely nailed that, and she's been so consistent across all the competitions. You can see not her best hurdle, but she still makes that dive effortlessly. Yeah. Very, very good diving from Brittany O'Brien.
It's a good observation that you made as well, just that capacity to generate rotation, even with a slightly lower takeoff than normal. But definitely Brittany O'Brien and Georgia Sheehan, pretty similar in styles. They're very graceful.
And they're quite tight on points too. 5 points difference at the moment. And really anyone could take the lead.
Yeah. Definitely a lot at stake. And just to remind the audience once again, so all of the scores are carried across. Incidentally, great back 2.5 there by Charlie Brown. Good aerial awareness. But the scores from the prelims and the semis and into the finals are all combined together, which is... It was actually fascinating to see sort of that tie last night, with Millie Puckeridge and Maggie Gray, and that is a tie across all 3 rounds, coming up to 915 or whatever it was. But it was, wow, I have not seen that before.
I've never seen it either, especially over 3 rounds.
Exactly. I mean, the chances of that are absolutely slim.
Oh, see, I reckon what's happened here is Lacey's we call it throwing your head back on the takeoff. Now, when you take off, you want to look at the water, because if your head's still, you see the water once, twice, and then you look at your feet, and you can see her head's just going further back on the takeoff, and it makes your brain think that you're further around in rotation, or that you have to do more, which is why you overdo it.
That's a really good point. It's a really well explained analysis of why you lose that sort of kick-out point, that orientation. I'm a big fan of, obviously, you see a lot of the divers, it's just that little head tilt. Watch the knees come up, and just as you're upsetting, that little bit of a head tilt to try and catch that flash. Is that something that you were trained to do? Or, I mean, everyone's a bit different, but I mean, that's something that I like to do anyway. It tended to help me.
I don't, we've done flips where you keep your chin on your chest, and I think that's too much for me.
Yeah.
I like, if I can take off and just look at the board, and then collect those knees.
Yep.
I just try to hold position and count without doing too much head movement, because that can throw me off. So, I think keeping your head still is super crucial, but you don't want to overdo it where it feels weird.
Yeah. I mean, just sort of breaking down some of the analysis, you do see some of the back 3.5s on 10 metre, for example, and you see that little bit of a head tilt just as a little sneak peek to try and get an extra glimpse of the water. But I was talking to Mitch Geller about that from Diving Canada, and he said, yes, it's definitely helped, but you do sacrifice a tiny bit of speed as well. Nice sharp kick, slight out rotation, but good diving.
Strong dive.
Yep.
Very steady, back 2.5.
Well, that's the tricky thing about diving, isn't it? I mean, we have to remind the viewers or parents, or if you're not a diver, or maybe you know a bit about diving, but you have to just realise it's just split seconds to get those come-outs right.
Sometimes you do the dive and you don't even know what happened.
Yeah.
It goes that fast.
Have you ever had those situations where you finish your dive and you just think, I stuffed it. I didn't have it, and you come up and you just see H. Like,
too many times.
Yeah. Or vice versa. You think you've nailed it and you've done a half twist.
I'll tell you, it's a good feeling when you think you've made a bit of a mistake and you come up and you still got 8s. You're like, it was okay. It was okay. It's a good feeling.
And Macy Wheeler,
back 2.5.
As we said before, in that university program. Got to say that, though, it's been a good thing for some of the athletes to go over there and get a college degree, and also just maintain their diving at a high level as well, and then come back when you're ready. We've seen that quite a few times.
Yeah, what an amazing opportunity to go get a free education, be able to dive, train, experience the United States. I think it's an incredible thing to do as an athlete. And if I wasn't so enrooted in my business stuff here and Swiss, I probably would have thought about doing it myself. Although I just hated school.
Same. I mean, my dad was a university lecturer, and even he was like, no, this is university's not for him. I kind of went down that diving show route and working in films, but the great thing about diving and it's that sense of community, and also the travel, right? Is that one of the things that you love?
Oh, love it. No, brilliant takeoff on the front 3.5.
Right.
Just let those legs blow over. You want to come out a bit earlier. She's got so much speed on it.
And look, I think there's a bright future for Emily Francis. I mean, she's still a newcomer to the sport, and relatively speaking, I mean, hasn't been diving very long, 3-4 years only, and to be doing those dives is pretty impressive.
And a big dive that was, front 3.5 pike. Running out of steam on the end of it. You want to see a full extension, but a very strong dive. And the front 3.5 is quite a big dive. We see a lot of other athletes do it tuck in this event.
And you're doing front 4.5 though, right? On 3 minutes.
Full send.
Yeah, full send.
Full send. No mucking around.
That full send.
Tuck and hope. You know?
You've got to come and do our freestyle cliff diving classes. There's plenty of full sends there.
I think with only 5 weeks in the pool, you probably think that's where I belong.
And how's it all going, actually, speaking of you come back? Feeling good now with the back?
I'll tell you what, we were talking about this before, like having to come in for 6 or 7 months and just ride the bike. You sit there and you're like, I didn't sign up for this.
I
want to be diving, yeah. But you don't have a choice because you've got to stay fit. So
yeah,
it's been really difficult.
Down. Yeah, you don't want to put any...
Especially me, I've got a big sweet tooth. You know?
Yes, so, and I'm the older chocolate Eclair, eh?
Yeah, I love it. But bit of a miss here from Kaloi. Now, I believe they've been pre-selected for the synchro team, so she should be heading off to the World Champs either way, but she won't be happy with her performance on this dive, and she is capable of exquisite diving. We've seen that when she made the Olympics.
Yes.
We've seen that when she becomes a world champion, but that's part of the sport as well.
Exactly.
And it's commendable to go out there and have a crack, and even if it doesn't work, like the fight, that's the game. You've got to keep fighting, and that's what she does.
Yeah, and we were talking about that. Well, nice dive by Natalie Farn, but we're talking about that with Madison Keeney. I mean, she missed out on, of course, the Japan Olympics. I mean, some people might just go, you know what, I'm throwing in the towel. And talk about perseverance. I mean, 7-year cycle to come back and then make your way into the Olympics. But yeah,
then to win a medal.
And that's a really interesting story for me too, because it's like that's the story. It's the ups and downs. We've got to be able to persevere and ride through that, you know. So and then Georgia Sheehan, you know, definitely got some fire in her belly and diving really well.
Certainly does, and we can see that Alicia Cloy obviously beating her out of the Olympic trials, but she's quite far ahead in this event. She might be able to get it back this time.
Yes, exactly.
But in diving, nothing can happen. Anything can happen.
Yep. We've seen that in the Olympics, right? You know, it comes down to the final dive. We've seen all kinds of strange things occur.
In particular, the Greece men's 3-meter synchro event. The Australians picked up a medal. Everything went wrong. The Russians, I believe, failed the dive.
Exactly.
Someone got up naked on the board. Yeah. Wasn't there a streaker that got up on the board?
I don't know. I don't remember that, actually.
Everything happened.
It's a good story.
I wasn't even born, I don't think. I've heard about it.
Well, that was old Maddie Helms Olympics, wasn't it? The silver medal on 10 metre.
Yeah, not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
Toes. Graceful diver, but very solid diving by Georgia Sheehan, just staying right in the pocket, diving really well. Brittany O'Brien, 205B. How'd you fare with this dive?
Look, I actually quite like this one because if you can get a good takeoff, you just sit and count the board, 1, 2, and put your feet towards it. Oh, okay. Slight mistake from Brittany here.
Let's break it down where you think, maybe there's a combination of parts that cause it.
Now, look, it's not a major miss. 6s is a pretty good miss if you're going to miss a dive. Now, just really spinning so quickly and coming out too late.
Yep.
So probably throwing the head back a little bit on takeoff, kicking high, and once you've kicked high, there's not much you can do, but it's the first time we've seen a change in leaderboard. Brittany's down in second. Still a comfortable lead from third, and really, Brittany's just got to get in that top 2 to make the World Champs team. So a bit of a miss, but certainly not a game changer.
Yes, exactly. Charlie Brown, I mean, again, let's reiterate, this is her first ever senior competition, and I think she's handling the pressure really well.
It's good just to be out there, see what the other divers are doing, be part of that process. It's like when I'm in a competition, it kind of feels like you're running a race. Like there's different parts. It's not, your dive goes so quick, but the competition doesn't. The competition goes for so long. 90% of the competition, you're sitting around thinking.
That's what I was going to ask you. I said, what's your routine between dives? What do you like to do? And everyone's got their thing. Some people put their headphones on and listen to music like we were talking about earlier. But is there a set thing that you do, or you just kind of wing it and see, go by how you're feeling on the day in that particular competition?
It really depends on how many people's in the event. Like, that makes a massive, massive difference. Like, if I'm at a World Championships in a prelim and there's 40 people and it's going to go for 3 hours, then I try to go sit somewhere quiet, stay warm, put some headphones on, listen to some music, and just chill and think about my breath and breathe.
Yep.
If it's a fast competition where there's not many in it, like the Commonwealth Games where we picked up a medal, it was such a quick event. I barely had time to sit down.
Which is kind of good in a way.
It's kind of good.
Yeah, yeah.
You nearly don't have time to overthink.
Yeah, that's the whole point. I mean, when you have like those 40 divers, have you ever had a nap and fallen asleep?
No, certainly not. I've been too stressed. But what does happen is, because when I'm stressed, I typically don't feel as hungry.
This is an interesting
I finish
point.
a competition and I'm just like starving because it kind of catches up to you.
Yeah, I would try to be conscious of that when I was competing as well with the cliff diving. And sometimes we're in remote locations too, so it's just having a good old banana and some apples in the bag as well. Just top up your. You don't feel like eating, but you know that you need to. And you have to be conscious of that as well. Nice, light, nutritious food is really important. No whopping down those bakery rolls for the comp people.
Yeah, especially the places you go. You're jumping off a cliff in the middle of the Amazon. There's no Macca's around the corner.
No. Hey, great job finding that point with the come out, right?
Very strong come out. And that's what you want to see, like a tight kick, good line through the water. Now, it was a little bit splashy, but because the line and kick was so good, we're seeing some sixes from the judges.
We were talking about that last night with Lily. I mean, it's really good to see these really beautiful, confident come-outs like Laura Hingston, who I'm going to be commentating with later. I mean, talk about sharp kick-outs in those reverse 2.5s on 10 metre. Loving it. Good technique, good coaching.
Macy Wheeler.
Hey, speaking of coaching, what about you, Coach Sam? You going to be a coach?
Look,
is that on the horizon?
I was actually the head coach at a school here in Sydney, St Catherine's, for a few years. Loved it, loved me coaching, but I'm so busy with all my other work. I come in, I train, and coaching it's a tough gig. Like, it's quite emotionally draining. It's quite draining being on pool deck all day. So for me, my diving is the actual training, and then I leave the pool and I focus on my other businesses. Yeah,
I've actually had some periods where I've been coaching, and then I've actually coached and have to get in the water to dive myself and train after being coaching. But your brain's done.
It's really, like, coaching is difficult because you're dealing with a lot of emotions as well.
Yep.
Like, divers, I know if I'm nervous for a dive, probably puts more strain on the coach. I try to make it easy for them, but, they put in a lot of work and their heart and soul's in it too. And especially being on pool deck when it's so hot all the time. Like, these coaches having to be here for a week, like, it's tough.
Yeah, it does. It does get tiring. I remember talking to Adi Hinchliffe after Paris Olympics, and he just said he was absolutely exhausted. And, and that's the other thing too. The coaches feel the, pressure as well, and it drains you after a while. Having to really pull that dive through the reverse 2.5 there for Emily Francis. Smidge worried about the back.
Yeah, just not enough rotation on that takeoff. I've heard the coaches too mention before that they can get more nervous because they don't feel in control. See, as a diver, you at least feel somewhat in control of what you're doing.
Yeah.
The coaches have no control.
Yeah, and it's an interesting journey, isn't it, that sort of athlete-coach relationship. You're just in that journey together. I mean, you're just so invested in it. And that's why you just see those fantastic reactions after the competition. You just live for those moments as an athlete and as a coach to see all that hard work pay off. And it very seldom comes to that pointy end of the spear. You really just go through the trenches. And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, you have to remind ourselves it's just day-to-day grind. You've got to keep chipping away. It's all about consistency.
That is it. And some of those big moments, when you look back, it feels like they've just happened because you did all that day-to-day grind. Nice. Really good bounce back from Alicia. Yeah, good. Obviously, a little bit of a miss in the previous dive and a smidge back on the board, but kept it together. It's good to see a diver do that. Miss a dive, come back, hit the next one. That's what it's about, not giving up, persevering. And she's only 23 years of age, and, there's still room to improve. There's still room to stabilise and get more consistent mentally and physically as well. But I will say this again, I mean, she's really come, leaps and bounds. And that synchro of Matakini is such a great opportunity to possibly even pick up a medal for the World Champs. Exactly. Two very strong divers. They say in synchro, yes, timing is very important, but your individual dive quality is extremely important. Yes, absolutely. And both very powerful on the hurdles. Obviously, Madison Keeney's famous for that, and now Alicia Cloy is really getting up there in terms of that height and power on the hurdle. But Natalie Farn is someone who's really impressed me with her style.
It's just a slight over rotation. Could maybe that little tuck save there at the end, just to kind of save the entry a little bit.
Yeah, when we're talking about misses, if you can miss a dive for 57, it's not too bad.
No.
It's when you're getting down the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, it can hurt a fair bit. But to see her up in third place, pretty impressive.
It is. I don't know, as we were talking about before, I mean, even the very, very best have their bad days.
Certainly.
You see Tom Daly out of the finals in Olympics and missed it, but made the comeback, right?
Oh, okay. She's done a really good job there.
What a save. What a save.
Leaning really far forward on the end of that hurdle, but she controlled it really well, didn't panic. Not one bit of concern, but managed to deal with it. So you can see leaning forward's difficult.
Yeah.
Getting a fair bit of distance away from the board, but coming out at the right time and pulling it through the water. I reckon we'll see 6.5 from the judges.
But great sort of, obviously extension. I see Matt having a bit of a smile there. Like, he's obviously saying the same thing as us. Nice save.
Yeah, good save.
That's the point. Yeah,
good
no
save.
matter the takeoff. We said it earlier.
Brittany O'Brien with the same dive.
Little Scooty, huh? Yeah, I'll let you break down sort of what happened and why.
Yeah, look, and I've seen Brittany put this dive down for 8.5, so a little bit of a miss from her. You can see on the hurdle, a little bit feet split. For some reason, her feet were split. Possibly she was off the corner of the board. Now, that throws off your takeoff. So if you don't get into the right position, you don't get that momentum you need to finish the dive properly.
Good solid lead by Georgia Sheehan. So we're coming into the fifth and final round now. So Georgia Sheehan 568.20 and definitely sort of pulling ahead of Brittany O'Brien. Well done. Congratulations to Charlie Brown for her first senior open competition. Walk away proud, get your little notebook out and think about, okay, what I learned from this experience. But I think she's been very consistent across all of these 5 dives.
And having the chance to come out and compete at your first Open Nationals is a stepping stone.
Yep, huge stepping stone. It really is.
To be in there, out there competing. I remember my first Open Nationals, I was so nervous.
How old were you?
But also excited just to be out there. My first one was here in Sydney in, I think, 2017. And I picked up a medal the next year in 2018.
Oh, wow.
It was a whirlwind. And just that feeling of excitement when you've set a goal and you go out and you do it, it's tough to put in the words. You just it feels so good.
I know what you mean, because almost sometimes you have this visualization or this sort of image of like, I can see myself doing that. And then to actually be there and actually see that actualize is such an amazing feeling. It's one of the best feelings ever, right?
It is, and I take that feeling everywhere I go in life. If I can do that in the pool, I can do it with my businesses, I can do it with my social media stuff. So what I love about diving and sport, it teaches you the principles to be successful anywhere.
Yeah, and also I think, again, to overcome adversity, because you face a lot. I mean, it's a roller coaster ride being an athlete, right? I mean, there's a lot of, no disrespect to anybody, but I mean, obviously sometimes people have the life that's a little bit less rock and roll, let's kind of say. But I mean, when you have those extreme highs and extreme lows, then after a while you need to you can ride through that. I mean, Greg Louganis has talked about that when he he said to himself before his last dive, he goes, look, so what? If I don't hit this dive and I don't get the gold medal and I walk away with a silver or bronze, life will go on. It's going to be okay. I've got my life. I'm fortunate, to be grateful for those things. And sometimes it's important to remind yourself of that as well. So no matter the outcome, I'm going to be okay.
That's the way I try to think about it. My old coach, Thomas Rickards, he tried to put things into perspective. What a great guy. He used to put things into perspective and he'd say, it doesn't matter about a bad training session or a bad day. For me, I even think just being here and living in Australia, that's a good life. So
it is.
But you forget all that when you're diving and everything's on the line. You just feel like your life's on the line because it's everything to you.
Yeah, if you're too sort of like we were talking about before, if you're too absorbed into that one world, let's call it your diving world. And again, the importance of having that balance outside of life and other interests is really important. Macy Wheeler. They full out. Congratulations, Macy Wheeler, for completing your fifth and final dive. Must be nice for her to be back in Australia, but she's probably thinking, I want to go back to Hawaii.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
But might immigrate. Might lose her.
There's not many places in the world better than Australia, but I reckon Hawaii be up there.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
You can see her dive just not on the end of the board, whereas you get the maximum bounce. She's a little bit far back, which doesn't give you enough rotation, which is why she didn't fully extend on the end.
Yeah, it's not a great feeling when you're back on the board. You know
not.
You're not going to get that extra height. So full out for Emily as well. Good finish by Emily Francis. That's what we like to see, finishing strong. I have to say, I'm really enjoying watching her hurdle. Very graceful, very high. Your thoughts?
Yeah, a steady performance, and that's what you want to see. Good hurdle, great dive. Slightly over on the entry. You want to hold a bit tighter if we want to see some 7.5, 8s, but strong dive to finish on. So
earning her stripes. Like I was talking about with some of the other commentators, it's like being a pilot, right? You've got to get your flight time in, yeah? You've got to earn your stripes, learn how to fly the small planes and work your way up to the bigger planes, meaning the bigger dives. But she's already doing pretty big dives, but...
Strong finish there from Lucy.
Yep.
7, 6.5s from the judges. And back 2.5 is a very interesting dive to finish on. Back and reverse are typically, for most divers, they're the risky ones. And you want to... normally you hide them somewhere in the middle of the list.
Yeah, that's one way to say it.
That's what you do.
Bury it. Yeah, we'll talk about that with Lily. Just see a lot of people doing inward for the first one.
Because front entries are traditionally easier to hit because you've got time to come out, look for the water and line it up. Where back in reverse, you see the water and you kick to the roof and just hope for the best.
And sometimes, you can just give it a little extra pull. So Alicia Calloy finishing on in with 2.5 pike.
Very strong finish.
Super nice. Super clean. And that's what she would have wanted, just to kind of finish on a nice, strong dive on that one, leading into the finals. And again, we've still got the finals to come, right? Anything can happen, yeah? It's all about consistency across all of those dives. Beautiful diving by Alicia Calloy, right?
Certainly, and with all the scores combined over the 3 rounds, it's so important to be as consistent as possible. Alicia's moved up to first place, but we still have the final 3 to dive. Ooh.
And Alex Farn, very good diver though. So it was gold last year in the Australian Opens. So a very good diver, very stylish. Comes up with a big smile. Thoughts?
A very consistent performance. And again, finishing on reverse is not something we see very often.
Yeah.
A lot of divers finish on like a twist or an inward or a front. So interesting choice, but it seems to have worked well for her. And I believe that will put her up around 3rd or even possibly 2nd position.
It looks like she's really enjoying the competition too, Natalie Farn. Like really sort of in her groove.
It's where you want to be. Like when you're up too tight, you tend to make more mistakes.
Yes.
If you can love and enjoy it, you dive better. And some people are better at getting into that mood than others, and some days are better than others.
I like to have a bit of a laugh too sometimes, you know what I mean? If you're with your diver, crack a bit of a joke and a bit of a giggle, just take the edge off a little bit. But beautiful diving by Georgia Sheehan. I think she's diving out of her skin.
Very impressive and such a beautiful diver to watch. Really nice pike. Lovely entry through the water. I'd love to see some 7.5, even 8s coming from the judges on this dive. I think it deserves it. And I reckon they'll move her up to secure first position.
Yeah, you called it. Particularly if you're looking, diving is still about judging grace and elegance, and it's graceful. Beautiful leg line, good toe point, nice and neat and tidy. Brittany O'Brien to finish off the semis.
And a strong finish for Britt. We saw a few mistakes in the last 2 rounds, but she's got time to fight back. She's fought back well here. She's a former Australian champion in this event.
Yep.
But, she was an Olympian up on 10-metre platform, so to go to the Olympics on 10 metre and then come down and win the Australian champs and get a Commonwealth Games medal on springboard is very impressive, very versatile diver.
Yeah, and you have to sort of change your strength and conditioning. You have to change a lot of things. It's not an easy transition. And what was the reason for her to basically sort of transition from 10 metre to 3 metre? What was her MO, let's say?
She had a really successful career on 10 metre, and then she had a mental block and couldn't do one of her dives.
And that happens to all of us at some point.
Look, a lot of people honestly retire at that point, but she said, no, I want to keep diving, I want to find a way, and she moved down to springboard, and now you can see she's in second place, 10-point lead from third, and top two will go through to the World Championships. But interesting, Alicia Kaloi's fought back pretty hard. She's in third, and look,
so
she's
10
in
points away
contentions.
from Brittany O'Brien. Okay, and that's it's still within striking distance, no doubt. So look, coming into the finals, it's going to be an interesting competition. So you and I will be back for that. It's going to be a lot of fun to commentate. Now, Sam Fricker, that was an absolute pleasure. That was great to get your insights. I mean, let's do more of that shortly. So, folks, we're going to take a bit of a break, and we're going to have a bit more commentary shortly with Laura Hingston, and then I'll be back with Sam in the not too distant future this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
All the best. Stay tuned.
Good to see you.
We'll see you soon. Okay, folks, welcome to the Open Australian Championships. Of course, once again, to reiterate, it is the qualifier for the World Championships in Singapore coming up in July. And I'm joined here today by Laura Hingston, a great 10-metre diver, twinkle toes I like to call you. Very, very graceful indeed. Loved watching reverse 2.5 yesterday. That was absolutely stunning. Beautiful, beautiful dive indeed. Laura, in Beijing, in the super final, qualified 5th. And also took a medal back in 2020, 10-metre synchronised diving in the FINA Grand Prix in Spain. Laura, nice to have you back, and I hear it's been a long road back to diving with that tricep injury.
Yes, it has. Thank you so much for having me, Joey. Super excited to be sitting here on the mic and not on the platform. So
I know, quite a transition from yesterday to today, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit stressful up there when it's a world trial, that's for sure.
Yeah. And now you've got a journalism background, so I mean, this is something that you're wanting to get into. Obviously, the TV industry, you did a bit yourself recently in some other competitions. And you've been enjoying that?
I have, yes. Yeah, it's really important that I have balance outside of diving. I just feel when I'm happy outside, I'm diving my best. So it's really important that I'm working on my career as well as diving. Yeah,
and you need that little bit of an overlap, right? So it's almost like you don't want to be kind of doing just diving and all of a sudden, okay, now I'm thinking about my career. You want this kind of nice little transition and this overlap period. And my career came to a very abrupt end, and I was a bit like, what do I do now? But luckily I found a pathway, but it sounds like you've got a good pathway set forward. I mean, you finished a journalism degree, right?
I have, yes.
All right, so start list. Okay, we've got Archie Forsyth. I mean, he's only like 14 years of age in his first open competition. Zafer Madikar and Jonah Masika. You spent a fair bit of time training with Jonah.
I do, up on the platform in Melbourne.
Yeah, and of course, Cassiel Russo to cap things off. So we've got 6 dives today on the 10-metre platform. A reminder to all the viewers that all of the scores from the prelims, semis and finals are accumulated. And it's pretty tough, right? I mean, you've got to be very consistent across all 3 of those competitions. But mentally must be draining, right?
Of course, because every single dive counts. And that's really, really unusual in sport. So,
how do you find, is it difficult when you have those days where you've got the semis and the finals in the same day? I mean, that in-between phase must be difficult, right? You're still going home and trying to relax, but still a little bit nervous, right?
Yes, definitely, especially when the world champs are on the line.
Archie Forsyth kicking things off the arm stand. Interesting choice.
Nerves of steel. Beautiful entry there from Archie.
Now Archie's sister, Stella Forsyth, into the high diving scene. So I've just said this before, I'll say it again. Trying to get Archie into high diving. Where are we going to steal it?
I think you have to wait. No, you've got to wait a little bit, Joey. He's a talent. He's a real talent coming through.
No, he is. I actually had the chance to coach him a little bit. Did a bit of relief coaching up in Brisbane, and yeah, he was a lot of fun to coach. He's good, very receptive, very fun, loves a little bit of a joke. But gold in the boys 1 metre C competition in 2022. Dream job F1 driver for Archie Forsyth. The risk-taking element is apparent amongst all the divers. Time for Zafer Madikar. Choosing an inward takeoff. What's the dive that you like to start with in competition, Laura?
Oh, the first one's always a bit tricky, but I typically start with my back twist. It's not my best, but I try and use the adrenaline and just get it out of the way.
Yeah, okay.
Wow, beautiful entry from Zaf, leaving it slightly short there. Maybe a little bit of nerves, but still a great entry.
Zaf this year actually took gold in the 10 metre in the Southern Cross event. New Zealand. Did you go to the one in New Zealand, the Southern Cross event? No?
No, not this year. So I was lucky to go to all the World Cups, so I was at home preparing for those.
So how long's the journey been for you coming back from this tricep injury? I mean, it's been a long road back. I mean, tell us about that.
It has. It's been physically and mentally really tough. 4.5 years from my tricep injury. I had denervation, which is what caused a lot of the complications. And yeah, it was tough. A lot of the time when I'd hit the water, my arm would collapse and hit me in the face. So I lost a lot of trust in my body, and I lost a lot of confidence during that time. But we're back, and this is the first season that my arm feels great, and I'm not all strapped up.
Was that tricep injury something that happened all of a sudden, or is it like one of those injuries that creeps up on you over time, like an accumulated injury, so to speak, RSI?
Yeah, it was 3 weeks out from Olympic trials in 2021, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we just kept pushing and my tear just kept getting greater and greater. We were so close to Olympics, and I competed in this pool, actually. So this pool has seen some of my best results and one of my most traumatic competitions where I got medically withdrawn after the prelim.
Right. So Jonah Masika, very talented young man, just 17 years of age. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of very young athletes in this Open National, so this is, again, valuable experience for all the athletes. Cassiel Russo, our world champ in 2023.
Wow.
Oh, get out of the pool. Get out of here. Sydney Olympic Park. And he just looks like, oh, yeah, that's just like doing a reverse dive tuck for me. Easy.
Wow. He's a world champion for a reason. That was beautiful. Powerful takeoff. He knows exactly where he is. Great kick and goes straight down for that beautiful entry.
Thoughts on that kind of come out? There's obviously people going for that straight kick out. You've got that lovely straight kind of kick dish. But obviously kicking at that slight pike and then pulling it through. Something that we saw a lot with the Ukrainian divers, right? They
Yes.
had that type of technique, but obviously that works for him.
For Cassie has such great aerial awareness, and I think he really places his feet and he ensures that he has the exact spot so that he can get that entry. He's also doing a reverse 3.5. If I was doing a reverse 3.5, I'd probably be kicking at the roof as well. With not even try to make it, honestly, Joey.
Definitely one of the most nerve-wracking dives as well. Reverse 2.5, reverse 3.5s.
Wow, beautiful entry there from Archie. Hard to follow.
No,
Cassiel's 307 getting nines.
Look, oh, really? We're going to follow that? Thanks, Cass. But again, look, he's only 14 years of age. Reading their bios as well, and then some of the questions were, if you were not a diver, what sport would you do? And he was talking about BMX. Anyway, the familiar theme is this. I mean, it's either BMX for some athletes, it's snowboarding, it's speed climbing, people into Formula One, go-kart. Apparently you're a bit of a go-kart.
Yes, love it.
Do you just screech around them corners, don't you?
I do. I absolutely love it.
And you follow Formula One as well?
Yeah, I do. Yep, follow Formula One. Hopefully we'll get to work in Formula One in the broadcast space next year or when the time comes.
Yeah, I've worked with some of the producers with Formula One. They came across to Red Bull Cliff Diving, but yeah, they said it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I could see you doing that, and then, the pit lane, that'd be fun, doing the interviews with the racing car drivers, or the pilots, as we say.
Might have to give you a call and get some of those Red Bull contacts,
there we go. Get it in there now, eh? On air. Beautiful. Okay, back.
All right, come on, Zaf.
Back 3.5. Always those back and reverse rotating dives. Very difficult to get the spot right to come out. Good job. Speaking of aerial awareness, I mean, how much time are you sort of spending in the harness these days? I mean, you're doing much stuff with Matt in the water harness. I mean, I know that he's an absolute gun in the water belt as well. So is there still something that's kind of part of your regular routine? Or at certain kind of phases of your preparation, let's say?
Yeah, I would say in the preseason we use water harness a lot more, especially when you're learning dives. Thankfully, I've had my dives for a little bit, so not in the water harness as much. But yeah, definitely in the dry land, I think it's really, really helpful for that awareness and for the spotting.
Yeah, we've been having a few conversations about different kinds of systems, whether it's the spotting wheel like Joela's using, or the static harness like Andy Banks is using. I'm quite interested to try out this static harness.
Yeah, I've never used that either.
So Jonah Masika, very good at photography and also train spotting. I'll have to be a train driver one day. Let's focus on diving though first, shall we? In with 3.5.
Wow.
Nice, Jonah.
Absolutely beautiful. That takeoff, his lines, he's such a graceful diver. That is absolutely beautiful. And a really great recovery after his first dive. Had a little bit too much adrenaline on the 107, I think. But absolutely nailed that one. Look at that. Beautiful tuck position.
Good come out too, right?
Knows exactly where he is. Pikes out, sees the water. Gets that entry.
I mean, you must be proud of him, right? So you do a lot of training with him. I mean, what's his journey been like over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I love training with Jonah. He's such a funny kid, and we have a lot of fun on the 10 metre. We sometimes have competitions together just to spice things up at training.
Bit of banter.
Yeah.
Love that.
I always am asking him for advice on his 407. Another beautiful 407 there from world champion Cassiel.
Yeah, and he's testing out the wins on 3 metre springboard as well. I know that Madison Keeney was egging him on, or he was like, oh, come on, Matty, 3 metres not that hard. He got on the 3 metre board and realised it is pretty hard. The nice thing about platform is it stays there, it doesn't move.
That's true.
Keep it nice
But
and solid.
Took home the gold in the 3 metre. He's a real talent, Cassiel. And I just love his attitude. He has fun. Look how relaxed he is. He's such a showman as well.
It's true, isn't he? He's so nonchalant, sort of gets out of the water, smokes his dive. He's like, all part and parcel. It's just like having a cup of coffee.
And Archie, I would say, he trains with Cassiel, and he definitely has a little bit of that as well. So
yeah,
modelling his diving on Cassiel, which is recipe for success, I say.
Speaking of recipes, apparently he's quite a good cook.
Is he?
He claims to be, anyway. But he's a big fan of his sister Stella, so he really idolises her. I was actually just working with his sister Stella on a movie, so they actually had to do a stunt doubling Charlize Theron, actually.
Wow, that's awesome.
Which is pretty cool. Anyway, a little bit short, but again...
Maybe just held back a little bit on that takeoff and came out a little bit early, given that it was maybe not spinning as fast as he thought. And that happens with a blind entry. And when you got nerves as well, that feeling does get mixed up a little bit. So, but that's all right. We've still got many more rounds to go.
That went quite well for you, back 2.5 pike and 10, yeah?
Yeah, it's taken a while for me to perfect that in a competition, though. It's always been one of my best training dives, but it's taken a little bit to get used to in competition. You've got that extra adrenaline. It's not a difficult dive. It's all about control. And when you are shaking up there with nerves, it can be a little bit difficult, that one.
I know, and sometimes when it doesn't go to plan, you want to kick the bucket, literally, and then like, oh. But as I was talking with Madison, after a while, and your nerves, or let's say your attitude towards adversity starts to change, and then you start to go, okay, it's all right. Let's just try to put that behind you. But that's the tricky part. Trying to put those setbacks behind you and moving forward. Is this something that you worked a lot on, like with sports psychology? Or is this just general conversations, that you're having with your coaches to try to make sure that you're prepared to deal with situations when it doesn't always go to plan?
Of course. I mean, I've had a very up and down journey with injuries, good results, bad results, and you really just learn to compartmentalize each dive. Mm-hmm. Diving is very unique in terms of every dive counts. When you think of, the greats like Roger Federer, his stat is he only won 54% of his shots, and he's the greatest of all time. If you only hit 54% of your dives, Joey, I don't think you're the greatest of all time. So the mental skills we need in diving are very, very high. That's
an interesting statistic. And I was talking about Roger Federer too, and speaking of sort of attitude, but if you actually sort of read his bio when he was younger, he had a lot of anger management issues. Like he would really throw some hissy fits when things didn't go to plan, and he definitely evolved. And he had a coach that said to him one day, he said, a new coach, he said, you need to control that. You've got to get on top of that. And it's amazing to hear that when you see him on the field, so cool, calm and collected. He rarely lost his temper, but it was interesting to see that, obviously there was a predisposition towards certain types of behaviour, but the moral of the story is he changed it, with attitude. He had a choice of how he wanted to respond to that, and he took the right pathway, and it led to tremendous success. But very interesting statistic about only 54%, of the wins with the balls. So it's a numbers game.
A little bit shaky on that press there, but I'm super proud of Jonah. This is a new dive for Jonah.
Yep.
And I'm sure he's going to bring it and do an even better one in the final, but he did a really good job to save that handstand.
So how long has he been doing this dive, say, for example?
Oh, I want to say weeks, maybe 8 weeks, or...
That's not much, is it?
It's not much time.
Yeah.
But he can drill that dive for 9, so I'm... Yeah, super proud of him for that dive. It's a new dive to your list. And when you got the pressure on you, sometimes it is tricky bringing new dives into a comp.
What's your tip to getting that particular... I know you do that dive as well. What's your tip to try to get the takeoff right, to set the dive up? Well, she's
Well,
speaking
there
of
we
which,
go.
yeah. Well, adding a
Cassiel
twist,
Cassiel just showed us there. It's about having that really nice pop off the platform to get that really nice control, tight twist, see the water and line it up. If you're a bit too fast, it's a really hard dive to control on the bottom, which is what we saw with Jonah. His feet did go past vertical, but with Cass, we see, look at the pop here off the platform. Beautiful. Look at that. Nice and controlled the whole way through.
Smidge
Maybe
over, yeah.
ducked the head a little bit on the entry, but beautiful takeoff and beautiful twist.
I feel like they're very tricky dives too, because if you don't get that sort of parabola that's sort of going up and over a little bit, sometimes you see those arm stands that fall a bit too much and cut down. Then you're on the whip, and insanely hard to control that. Okay, so Archie, reverse 2.5, looking for a comeback dive here. Oh,
wow.
Talk about the comeback dive, right? Didn't go to plan the back 2.5, but the reverse 2.5. Your
Absolutely
thoughts?
nailed it. Again, that's a great competitor right there. He didn't let that back 2.5 shake him. He came out. Look at this takeoff. Beautiful tuck position. He spots it perfectly. Lovely kick out. And down for that great entry.
Yeah, I was a smidge. At one point, I was like, oh, is he a smidge slow? But he definitely felt it and really sort of managed to sort of pull it through to get a nice entry.
You really saw his head remained making sure he was at that right spot, really gauging where he was in the air, and that's why he was able to adjust it so well.
Yeah, Sam and I were just talking about that head position, particularly in back and reverse, and see some people just do that little bit of a head tilt, but obviously if the head starts going back early, that's when you're obviously not getting the takeoff, and obviously the orientation point gets a little lost sometimes.
Yes.
Big dive, reverse 3.5 for Zafar Madikab. He's only 17 years of age as well. As I said, gold medal in the Southern Cross event, New Zealand. Very powerful, right?
Oh, just leaving those feet a little bit too low, but we have to appreciate his amazing takeoff. I feel it's hard to notice it on the TV, but in person you just see how high he can jump off that platform. He's definitely getting the most height. Look at that jump.
Mm-hmm. Almost double at the platform there.
Oh,
but a tough day at the office with the come out. Let's face it, you know.
Yep.
And, but he's in experienced hands there with Andy Banks.
He is, and you know, I really want to highlight Zaf has learned a lot of new dives in the past year. You know, he's got 3 massive dives in his list. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of pressure on the line here for everyone competing, and it's sometimes hard to put them under pressure. So he can do that dive for 9s. I've seen him do it, but unfortunately it just didn't pay off in this round. But hopefully he can put it down for 9s in the next.
But he's only 17.
Yeah, he's got plenty of time.
In the context of things, we've got to do that. I mean, that's getting your flight time, learning the experience. He's only young. And putting it into practice in training is one thing, but implementing it into successful diving in the competition is another ball game.
Yes, it is. Just needs a few more reps under his belt, I think.
Okay, Jonah. Back 3.5.
Wow.
Yeah. Go, Jonah.
Incredible back 3.5 from Jonah.
Man, he went for the takeoff. Watch the takeoff. Bang!
Beautiful. He has such beautiful technique. Coached by Matthew Helm, who is also a beautiful diver, and it's really showing in Jonah.
Can I say something? The interesting thing is I watched you dive, and when you were doing your reverse 2.5, I mean, it was almost like textbook Matt Helm.
Oh, really?
Well, just the way he kicked, obviously the toe point was just the style, but I'm just wondering how much of his own personal style has rubbed off on you through the coaching.
Wow. Beautiful dive there from Cassiel. Back 3.5 pike. That's a lot of dive to fit in 10 metres, Joey.
Yeah, I remember talking with him and 80 about this dive. Sometimes he had to go back to back 3.5 tuck because he was just saying that torque, that pressure on the back, particularly there. I mean, he knew he was short and he was just trying to yank it through the water there.
I mean, the difficulty we see is 3.6 there. It's a tough dive. But lucky for Cass, he knows how to spin.
Pretty good scores, though.
Yeah, I think you'll be happy with that one.
All right, Archie, what do you got for us, boy? Got his front 3.5 now. This is relatively new dive as well. Hey!
Oy. Great dive, Archie. Knows exactly where he is.
And I've been watching him train from time to time, and yeah, he hasn't been doing it very long.
He hasn't.
I mean, 14. I mean, you just don't have all that muscle mass yet. So it'll be interesting to see how he sort of develops as he grows into a young man when he's like 17, 18. There's a funny period when they're 14, and then you turn back, look at them 2 years later, like, oh my God, the size of you.
Yeah, I mean, Jonah, speaking of growing,
Yeah.
he's grown a lot.
And they will continue to grow in the sense that the muscle, let's say, that neural outflow, that nerve strength, that muscle strength will grow over time. It just takes a little bit of time for that to settle in. Pump 3.5 for Zafar.
Oh, great dive. Great spring off the platform. We mentioned before how great his jump was, but he also has hops.
Yes.
He springs off that platform. Look, his heels hardly touch the platform, and he's already pushing and ready to go.
Yeah.
109 will not be an issue for him.
No, and I think that connection, that ankle pop and that connection is vital, isn't it? Get that takeoff right.
Yeah.
Andy Banks spent a lot of time studying sports psychology. Very experienced coach.
Yeah, Andy's great in a comp. He was one of my past coaches, and yeah, he's really calm and collected in a competition, which is what you want.
Mm-hmm. And funny.
Yes. But he also knows, whenever I was a bit too serious in comp, he'd always just tell me a joke just to loosen me up a little bit.
Yeah. He's quite the character.
All right, this is quite a new dive for Jonah. Learned it just before the World Cups.
Yeah, nice bit of visualisation, getting into the zone before the dive.
Taking his time, which is good.
Yeah, speaking of time, because there's only 4 of them in the event, that's an interesting point. I mean, you're basically doing your dive and then we straight back up. No time to think.
No
Good
time
thing,
to think.
Bad thing?
I think as long as you're not puffed out, there's
That's
a lot of steps to the 10 metre. I know there's a lot more for you, Joey, but there's a lot of steps to the 10 metre. So it's important that you get your heart rate down and you're ready to do a good dive.
Actually, in the high diving facility in Zhaoqing in China, there's an elevator up to the 10 metre. Quite a bit of elevator music too. It's quite fun. I quite like that. Very considerate. Oh, I am impressed. Laura, you look really chuffed to see him diving so well. I mean, you train with him, but I can see you're really rooting for him. That's great.
Yes, I'm so happy for him to be able to do it under pressure like that. Just look at that dive. It's textbook. It is an amazing dive. And I'm just so happy. I mean...
Wow, 2 9s, 3 8s, and an 8.5 as well. Oh, Matt's stoked.
Yes, he's such a hard worker, Jonah, so it's really nice when it pays off.
Yeah. And Matt Helm was a very hard worker. I grew up diving with him in Brisbane.
Wow. Cassiel really steps it up in a competition, loves to compete.
But the only thing we need to do is replace his feet with your feet. If we could get the twinkle toes on Cass, then Cass would be formidable.
Only if I get to have some of his power.
Sometimes Cass is a little bit scruffy, but very, very powerful. But I remember seeing Cass when he very first started diving, and I remember going, watch out, there is something about him.
Yeah, he's so talented. I love watching Cass dive. He just comes alive in the competition.
Yeah. I just like it when he smiles too, like that final dive in the World Championship 2023. He's up there and he just smiles. Yeah, boy, watch this.
Watch me.
But I was there. I mean, the whole stadium, you could feel every nation, not just Australia. Everyone was like, yes. They all wanted to see Cass win.
Yes.
It was really it was just a really sort of special moment. It really was. It was good. And you could kind of, there's something in the air, you could kind of feel it, right? It was really cool.
Yeah, it's hard not to love Cass. You know, he's got such a great personality, super supportive of everyone, comes alive in competition, a fantastic diver, works hard. I mean, you know, he's a popular boy on the world circuit, that's for sure.
So, well done, Archie. First open competition. Jonah, a bit of a fist bump for him. Keeping that support going.
Yeah, I really love watching the men's competition. They all get around each other. It's great.
Come on, son.
Yeah.
You can do it. I do like Archie's attitude, you know. He's like, yep. He gets on with it, you know what I mean? Let's do this. Okay. Zafar looking to finish strong with his back 2.5.
Also a new dive for Zaf.
I was talking about this particular dive, or I didn't do this one, but obviously with 1.5 twist. But getting that extension to the legs and getting the rotation is tough on this particular dive.
Wow, great dive to finish for Zaf. He just makes it look easy. This is a really difficult dive, but he just twists like a spin top. He has such a great twisting action, makes it easy. As I said, this is a new dive for Zaf, but you would never know. Look at that, getting into the pike easily, even going over slightly. Yeah, very, very impressive.
Yeah, maybe just closed a little bit underneath because he really had it, yeah?
Yeah.
And like you said, it was just a piece of cake. Just in terms of height and rotation. Like, some of those type of athletes, I mean, they have that natural fast twitch fibers, you know, that explosive takeoff. Obviously, you need to work on it with your S&C, but clearly, naturally got a gift of power.
He does. Would love a little bit of that myself. I'll trade my feet if I can have some of his hops.
Well, there you go. That's the trade-off with, you know, Cass is very powerful. You can have a little bit of Cass legs, and then Cass can have some of your toes.
Perfect. Yeah, happy to share. It's all for Team Australia.
You know, sort of surgery options will be out there in the future. Then you'll be left with some ugly Cass feet. That'll be terrible. Final dive for Jonah. Back 2.5, 1.5.
Wow,
nice.
Beautiful,
nice.
Jonah. I'm really proud of Jonah. You know, he's really kept his composure in the past 2 rounds. There's still one more round to go, but so far he showed just what he's made of. And he has so much talent still in the bag. You know, he's still so young, only 17.
I think there's a really exciting future for Jonah. He's got the power.
He does.
And he's got
the technique. He's got the grace.
Good, big scores too.
That's amazing. Yeah, he'll be happy with that, Jonah. Nice and steady semi-final. Yes, Cassiel. I love it when he finishes with this front 4.5 somersault.
He doesn't waste too much time, isn't it? You always get the whistle. He's like, pew!
Yeah.
I'm out of here. Good, consistent diving. But a recap, I mean, great to see sort of Cass diving so well, but certainly big ups for Jonah, really putting in a fine performance in that semi-final. I mean, you've got to be proud of him, right?
Yeah, I'm proud of all the boys. I mean, they've all done a really great job. They're all pushing the degree of difficulty, and they're chasing Cass.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they're the one that they're all he's the one that they're all looking up to, and he's a world champion, and how amazing that, you know, they get to compete against him at our national championships.
Yeah.
So he's world class, and they know it.
Yeah, things are looking bright for the way forward and the future of diving in Australia, that's for sure. The women's and the men's field, huge number of new women athletes in the field as well. So we're just going to wait to see the final scores on the screen. We've got our little cheat screen over here, but we won't do that for everyone watching the live stream. Okay, so Cass 950, and then Jonah. Okay, yeah, there's a bit of a gap there, but a lot of good takeaways for Jonah Masika, really putting it together. And also, he's only doing back 2.5, 1.5, and I'm sure he'll add the DD in the future. Well done to Zafar Madakar as well, and Archie. And look, that'll wrap things up for this live stream now for the men's. I'm going to take a bit of a break, and we'll be back this afternoon with the women's 3 metre, and then I'll be back with the men's final with Laura once again. Laura, pleasure to talk to you today, and we'll see you shortly. Let's go and have a little nap, and we'll come back in a little bit.
Yes, thanks for having me, Joey, and congratulations to all that were in that event. That was a great event to watch, and even better to commentate, so
Precisely.
absolute privilege.
Yeah.
World-class diving.
Yeah, well done, gentlemen, across all of the athletes. Take care. We'll see you soon.